through Haywards Heath, and you will have ignored it, because it deserves to be ignored. Even in the summer, it still has a sense of greyness. It's a commuter suburb. It was developed specifically for the needs of a growing population who are commuting from the south into London to make lots of money, to come back. It's all part of progress, because that paradigm we all want, progress, development. I was on the other end of it. I was a little child who was running riot around the few remaining woods in that area. And there was this one place in particular. It was called Portsmouth Wood. There was a tiny little stand of trees. Nothing significant. Now, I used to go in there and just run riot. I'd vandalise things. I would do everything. I would have been, had I not had a woodland, I would have been in Borstal. Borstal is a place where they put young offenders. But I was allowed to run riot. I was allowed to go crazy in this beautiful woodland. And then one day I walked into that woodland, and there were these crosses on the trees. Now, if that was some religious iconography, then great. I would have bowed my head in reverence. But instead, it was the mark on the trees that were going to be cut down. And the next day, I was just about to go into the woodland, and I heard the sound of chainsaws going. And where once my cherished world, my dreams stood, there lay these sort of carcasses, this reminiscence of nature, this history, this memory. And in its place was put a housing estate. And guess what the housing estate was called? Portsmouth Wood. They had the audacity to take that name and to place a housing estate where there was a woodland. And from that moment onwards, I became angry, I became depressed, and I became radicalised. Now, at 5 years old, you don't really want to be a radical environmentalist. Parents get a little bit frustrated, you know, out come those attention deficit disorder pills, and you're subdued, but it's no, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to fight it. So anyway, went through that formal education process that tries to dull you, where you sit behind a desk and you add numbers together to create new numbers, but you don't know what that's all about. You just have a new number. But it's going to make you a successful human being. A part of this system, this development, this movement forth to what we don't know. Anyway, I got caught up in that. I thought, God, I've got to do well. Unfortunately, my brain didn't quite cope with my aspirations of doing well. So I kind of failed miserably. But the great thing is, at that time, a CSE grade 1, for those of you who know about CSEs, was worth the same as an O-level. So I went forward with O-levels. Went through that traditional education system, came out the other end, and it was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I wanted to see the world. So I got on a plane. Luckily, at that point, carbon footprints weren't a problem. So I got on the plane, and I decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to search the world for the last, well, at the time, actually, it wasn't the last. I'm going to search the world for wild places. Wild places both here and up here and out there. So I went around the world and something was happening. Everywhere I went was the last. It was the last stand of giant redwoods. It was the last stand of a certain species of eucalypt on the western coast of Australia. It was the last hill tribe. It was the last. Everything was the last. And so my depression, actually it went like that, because I became more depressed as opposed to what had gone down. I became more depressed. And then one thing finally hit me. I came back to the UK, and again, when I was a little one, I used to love butterflies and moths. And when I was young, you would be able to go out on a summer's day and you would be able to see these flowers of the sky, these beautiful levitating beasts, these colourful creatures that would just glide in that hot summer air, in that sun. All of a sudden, they had gone. In the evenings, when you would go out with a torch, or when you would drive, you would find the place festooned with moths. That all started to disappear. And at that point, I decided it was time to become re-radicalised, get angry again. So I got very angry then slightly less angry. Then I got even angrier, and it was wonderful. Being angry is actually a good thing to do. We're all encouraged. We're all encouraged to sit quietly, to meditate, and to take a step back. But sometimes you have to get angry, and you have to fight. And I decided, right, it was time to fight. So I went off to Australia, and I don't know, I wasn't that radical, because I decided that the way to fight was to do a PhD. So anyway. Radical! Yeah, exactly. It's like, yes, I'm going to be really radical. I'm going to enroll a PhD course to become a doctor. So I did this PhD, the impacts of climate change. Now, I decided, you might as well do a PhD in a nice part of the world. So I decided, well, sea level rise, small island states, I'm going to Fiji. So I spent quite a lot of time in Fiji, observing sea level rise. You'd go out in the morning. Oh, yeah, tide's out. Come back a few hours later, relaxed, having had a few glasses of wine. Actually, it wasn't. It was just gin and tonic and lemon juice, because I didn't get wine. And the tide would come up. And you would observe this, day in, day out, months, sea level change. And then all of a sudden I realised, well, actually, yeah, this is a threat. But a lot of these threats are the way we construct the threat as opposed to the actual physical manifestation of that threat. And I became more interested in power structures and the way economies work and politics and all those things we love to engage in but we don't really understand. So I came back to the UK and I decided, I'm not sure this is the right way to go. I know, I'm going to start playing a hollow piece of wood. I'm going to become a professional didgeridoo player. It seemed a rational thing to do. I've got a PhD, I've achieved great things in academia. What do? You start playing didgeridoo. So I spent the next 3 years in a lavatory. Now before you all go, why were you in the lavatory? The acoustics of toilets are second to none. They are done with tiles. So if ever you want to learn an instrument, don't go to a music school, go to a public lavatory and sit there and compose. You'll be arrested. Anyway, I left the toilet and decided to play professionally. But something was nagging. There was still a deep sense of belief that nature was worth protecting. Somehow I had to make a connection between a hollow piece of wood and nature. There was an intimacy there, somehow, but I didn't quite know. And it was through playing, and through playing this ancient instrument, 2,000 years of history it has, and much of it is about connecting to natural systems. The people who played it, Aboriginal people of Australia, told stories through that instrument. Now, it's not my place to tell their story through that instrument, but I started to realise I could tell my story. And so what I've started to do over the last few years is start to make music which talks of connection. It talks of that intimacy between us, land, us, nature. Something that has been severed in our pursuit of economic growth, in our pursuit of development, in our pursuit of business, and making lots of dosh. We have lost the intimacy with that which we need. We will not live, we will not sustain ourselves, we will not have an economy without that. So I've started making music and noise, lots of noise, about linking sound, nature, to try and make us realise what we're losing. And so we've set up a group, Digitalis, which is all about the sound of sustainability, and a little enterprise called Sound Futures, about how you use sound to communicate some of these issues. Because unless we go one step further, ecocide is fantastic, but ecocide of itself will not change human behaviour. Unless we can go out and touch that vestige of nature, unless we can go out, breathe clean air, drink clean water, and actually make a connection with nature again, none of this will work. So we have to work hand in hand with the lawyers, those economists, those business people who are taking this forward. But we have to communicate it to the public to say the time is right for change. So that's why you're all here, because you want to change the world. There's a lot of social entrepreneurs here. You can do it, we can do it together, and we can start by supporting